Hi there, YouTube. This is the Magnus bringing you another Total War Warhammer tournament battle. This is round 2, game 2 of myself versus Artemis Minion. This time I had first choice, so I chose to play as the Dwarfs. A little Dobby action. And as a counter, he decided to bring the Greenskins, which, yeah, pretty good pick for against the Dwarfs, especially if you're going to bring Squighurt, which he did not do. But the one thing you will notice is this is the second straight map where he's corner camped. I don't want to speak bad about my opponent. He played really well and it was really fun playing him, but it seems like there's no situation he's not willing to corner camp in, even with an aggressive faction like the Greenskins. Whereas I'm the Dwarfs, and instead of parking myself back here on the mountain, I elected to forward deploy, hoping to meet in the middle. But anyways, let's take a look at my composition. I went with 2 gyrocopters with brimstone guns. I still like them against the Greenskins because the threat of flying is minimal. All they can do is put Azhag in the air. As far as my line, I have 3 dwarf warriors. I have 4 miners. I have 1 longbeard. I have the dragonback slayers, the grumbling guard, 2 of the quarrelers, a runesmith, Thorgrim grudgebearer, and a thane. And I deployed them as such. Pretty simplistic line, using the miners to flank even my quarrelers. That way they're protected front, back, left, and right, as is my leadership. My opponent brought 2 Doomdiver catapults. Good choice, because you can use artillery to make the dwarfs come to you, and that's not something dwarfs like to do. He's got 2 goblin big bosses up here. 1, 2, 3 black orcs, including one of them being the Crimson Killers. He has night goblins. Up here, Skarsnik as his leader. Pretty cool choice. An orc shaman and Rusty Heirs. Now that's all I could see. Well, actually, I couldn't see the night goblins, of course, but that's all that was apparent to me, or the Rusty Heirs. But hidden in the forest, he has orc boar boys, 2 of those, and 2 goblin wolf riders. So definitely a bit of an element of surprise there. So I'm going to start off, of course, I'm going to use my gyrocopters and try to harass and maybe even try to put some damage on his artillery and scout and see what it is that he has that I can't see at this point, because I'm fully aware that these units up here, -2, that are hidden, are not the entirety of his army. It's just not, that's not a full spend. So I swing around so I'm actually facing him, and initially I'm going to think to take a little bit of cover in the trees to obscure his Doomdiver catapults a bit, while I get a chance to play with the with the gyrocopters. Now we'll just kind of follow them a little bit. I start off, I go after one of the Doomdiver catapults, and then suddenly these arrows start flying at me, and I'm like, oh crap, hidden archer unit. It's the Rusty Heirs, and they are armor piercing, so they're quite good against my gyrocopter. They already suck against flying units, but you add on top the armor piercing, and well, they're tough. Now with the brimstone guns, as you can see, I tried shooting at the Rusty Heirs just to see if maybe I could do some considerable damage to them at all, if there was any hope of doling it out with them, and the answer is absolutely not. I did minimal damage. So now I'm just teasing a bit. I'm trying to lure his forces down the hill, which is working, and beat up on his artillery. The reason why is I don't want to have to come up this hill. That would be absolutely dreadful. So if I can cause him to have to move down and closer to meeting me in the middle, that would be far more ideal. Now generally with the Greenskins, if somebody corner camped on me, I'd be thrilled, because the Greenskins have lower leadership than a lot of people, and if you play to that and attack their leadership essentially, because they're in the corner, they'll run right off the map instead of having a chance to return to the fight. But in this instance, I'm not thrilled about it, because he's on this giant mountain and everything like that, and running up there and trying to chase him off would not be a fruitful endeavor, I don't think. So now I have my gyrocopters firing at his cavalry, which is a natural target for them. It's what they're good at. They're anti-large. Weird. So we're going to fire in here, do some damage to him. And I split up my gyrocopters. That way the rusty heirs can only chase one at a time. So I'm going to kind of play monkey in the middle, trying to avoid him. I dropped some bombs here on his cavalry. The damage is really not good, so I haven't used gyrocopters much. I don't play the Dwarfs a lot. If you follow my channel, you would notice that. And it appears they're only really good on infantry because the damage was pretty sad. So I decide he's not, he's moving forward. I might be making him do it, but he's moving forward. So I'm going to try to meet him in the center of the field, and I've got to start advancing. Otherwise, these Doom Divers are going to rip me apart. The gyrocopters just do not have the hitting power against artillery to, they did some damage, but you're not going to get rid of them, which is unfortunate. But they are pretty good at killing cavalry, which, is a good thing, because as the Dwarfs, anything with that kind of mobility is a problem for you. I still feel the gyrocopter's a little overpriced, especially now that pretty much everybody has access to flying, which flying melee units will beat the crap out of a gyrocopter. Armor-piercing missiles, which most factions have now, will also destroy them. They just don't quite do enough damage, even if you empty their ammo, they won't do quite enough damage, I think, to justify the cost, unless you've literally used every round of ammunition that they have. So you can see his Doom Divers are quite accurate and doing some pretty good damage to my army. My Longbeards are a little beat up, but I'm still really hesitant about going all the way up, but I realize now I don't have a choice. That's how it's going to be. It looks like he's moving down a little bit, so I'm hoping we can meet here, but it's much more likely it's going to be somewhere up here, which means I am going to have to go up this hill. And if he catches me at the right time, he's going to get a nice downhill charge on me, which is something I'm not particularly keen on the thought of. You're going to see the Grumbling Guard there just takes, a crazy direct hit from his artillery. It's just brutal. But I'm still, working the edges to shoot his cav here. These guys have lost, well over half their health, and quite a few, almost half their unit models. And that is one thing I can say about the Brimstone gun that is good, is it may not do as much damage as some other things might, but it eliminates models really well. And that's important because if you have 40 models with lower health, they're going to have a lot more damage potential than 20 models that have more health each, which is what you end up with here. So definitely like the Brimstone guns from that perspective. So now I'm going to come in for another bombing run because my men are advancing. I need something to distract him, and I want to use these bombs before the possibility of losing my gyrocopters or having to sacrifice them. The main target was the Rusty Heirs. It did good damage against them. Goblin Wolf Riders not so much. Again, learning a bit about the Dwarfs. So my nightmare scenario occurs, and he's going to catch me just as I'm cresting this mountain. Now the cool thing is most of my guys make it over. Thankfully I didn't get caught here. So I'm only at a slight disadvantage as far as terrain on that charge. He's going to bring all of his cav around this flank. I have my gyrocopters here to offer support by firing down on them, and I'm going to bring in the Dragonback Slayers. The Slayers are extremely effective in these kind of engagements, and he realizes that and does a very good job I'm sorry, pulling out. Of course, he didn't really have a choice with several of the units because they are fleeing, but still the timing was good. That could have been a lot worse for him. If he just stuck in there for another second or two, he was going to take some serious damage. So one of my gyrocopters is now out of ammo, so I'm going to send it crashing into the back of the Crimson Killers. These things do not do good melee damage, but they have a decent bit of charge bonus, and they can still, apply effects like attack from behind and things like that. So they're not completely useless in that regard. So here, my Dragonback Slayers are trying to get into his cav, which are going after my archers. And anything they catch, they're going to kill, but the hard part's catching things. But again, the Quarrelers are no slouches with the buffs they're currently applied to them. They have 24 melee attack, 31 weapon strength. So, you know, of course, on the charge, they're going to get absolutely obliterated. But if he sticks around, they're going to give him a decent fight. And he's still firing into him with his Doom Diver catapults that have, you know, racked up some considerable kills. Especially when you look at things like my Grumbling Guard, barely alive, but he still is. And that's very important because he's keeping everybody from tiring from combat, which is definitely going to give me an advantage. So now I decided to pull the Dragonback Slayers up here. I'm done, you know, chasing Cav and whatnot because, well, most of his Cav is gone or committed into a fight where I don't feel they're going to be particularly effective. Sure, they got a rear charge there, and that's cool, but he's leaving them in there, and I think my forces will whittle them down. Even his Regiment of Renowned Orc boys are running for it here. So both of his Goblin Big Bosses are routing right now, so they don't want any more. I kind of have my concentration of power here with Runesmith, Thorgrim, the Dragonback Slayers, and the Grumbling Guard. His Skarsnik right now is fleeing from Dwarf Warriors, so that's a good situation. And the balance of power is starting to go in my favor, which, you know, when I first looked at the outset of this battle, I didn't like my chances that much, but they're doing well. My Quarrelers, even though they were attacked by cavalry, are still pretty darn healthy. His Orc Shaman now routes, and he has Night Goblins and Black Orcs here in the center. I'm going to try to finish them quickly and get out of dodge because I'm eating artillery fire, but not going to be for much longer because this one is out of ammo, and this one's just about to run out of ammo. And thank the Dwarven Rune Lords for that because I don't want to eat any more of that. So now we're going to make a play on Skarsnik. If we can defeat him, I'm pretty sure that the rest of his band of green bastards will run off. I send the Gyrocopter into the Rusty Airs. Again, these things are terrible in melee combat, but against something with such weak melee skills, it should do well, especially with two Gyrocopters in there, just shredding them up, making some sort of disgusting version of hamburger out of Night Goblins. I do not recommend eating that unless you're a Greenskin, then you'd probably be fine with that. His Scarstick right now is extremely low on health and getting pinned down, which he's not enjoying, and he's going to flee the field, and that's going to result in a victory for our Dwarfs. Very close match. Good game to my opponent. You know, obviously I didn't care for his initial deployment, but, you know, it's a free world and we do what we want. But other than that, with a little bit of, possibly a little bit of coercion for me, we got him down off that giant mountain. So all's well that ends well. Let's look at the tail of the tape. The miners did okay. They're not really great against the Greenskins, but they can be useful for pinning something down or just eating damage for a considerable amount of time while you deal with higher threat targets. The Dwarf Warriors were, you know, they were kind of mediocre too, as were the Longbeards. The Dragonback Slayers were great, and they're such a good deterrent, so I was happy with them. The Quarrelers did well. They spent a lot of time firing at the Lord and the heroes, so they still got good kills. The Gyrocopters were fantastic. It's a good matchup for them. Like I said, there's very little threat to them. Look, they look shiny new as far as health, but they used all their ammo and all their bombs. Note to self and everybody else, bomb infantry, not cavalry. Just seems doesn't work that well. My Thane did really well. Runesmith was good as always. Thorgrim hung in there. That's what he's supposed to do. Looking at my opponent's army, his Black Orcs is always, these guys are just great against Dwarfs. I mean, that's, you know, chopping up Dawi's what these guys were made, born, and bred for, literally. The rest of his army, not that impressive, especially cavalry contingent. Like, what, you know, just Orc Boar boys. I thought they were Biggins. They're just Orc Boar boys. That makes sense against the Dawi. Biggins wouldn't really make sense because I don't have anything that's big for them to go after. But overall, just a really disappointing performance by them. His Doom Diver catapults were freaking clutch. They had a field day on my guys. His leadership did fine. A very close battle. Could have gone either way. Thankfully, it went mine, and that means we're going to have a Game 3 in this Round 2 match of the Questing Cup 2. Looking forward to bringing that one to you. Hopefully, we can get another win and show that we advance further. You'll have to wait to see that. If you liked the video, if you like tournament battles, or you just you learned something, hit like, hit subscribe. Until the next time, this is the Magnus, and I will see you on the ladder.